Hi, Ali Akbarian here, resident road safety expert at Mobility Engineering, back for another Q&A series. Thank you very much for bringing your questions in. They're all coming in now and we love seeing them. I've got quite a few to answer today. We'll make a few videos on those questions, and as I said before, and as I keep saying again, keep those questions coming. We may not be able to answer them today or tomorrow, but we'll definitely get to them, normally within a few days, maximum a week, and we'll get them up online to get you going and answer those questions. We'll find all the answers for you, and as I keep saying in all the videos, our mission is to make sure Aussies are as empowered and informed as possible to make the right choices for their kids and for their families and for themselves. So keep the questions coming in. So today's questions have come actually from the Roads and Maritime Services. We've got Gina from the Roads and Maritime Services that asked us a few questions, and they're great questions, so thank you very much, Gina. And what we thought, as the resident go-to experts for the Roads and Maritime Services, we do consult to them a fair bit and give them a lot of advice in this area. We thought, why not get a video out there and let's go for it. So the first thing she's asked is, have there been any changes to the recent changes to the child restraint regulations and legislations? Now, we get this question all the time. There's always rumours going around, oh, this law changed, and that law changed, and that law changed. A couple of things I've learned over the years with experience is when laws change, the politicians tend to really like to make a big deal about it. They'll get on the media, it'll be on all the news channels, all the radios and all that kind of thing. So something like this, unless you're hearing it everywhere, pretty unlikely that it's changed, but always good to check and always good to ask. And also regulations like this, which are pretty, big, strong regulations, they don't change like that overnight. Typically speaking, they're a long time coming. They take a lot of industry consultation, ministerial consultation. Everybody's got to be on board. Senators, House of Reps, the whole thing. It's a legislative change. So things like that don't happen overnight, in our experience. So from what I've understood and from all of my research, no, there hasn't been any law changes. So what I will do is today I will clarify what the laws are for children travelling in vehicles. So the laws go all the way up to 7 years old. And before I actually talk about the laws, one thing I will put forward is a couple of fantastic resources that are online, which we use ourselves every single day to get the information. First one is childcarseats.com.au. So it's www.childcarseats.com.au, and that website is being funded by the New South Wales government with a couple of other governments around Australia that have thrown some money into the ring as well. And it's a fantastic resource. Lots of frequently asked questions, star ratings for child restraints, all the clarification around the current rules and regulations, and any hints and tips and things you might need to know around as well. So definitely go to that one, and we're going to put a link down below in the notes. And another one is also a national set of guidelines for child restraints. So this one, the child car seats one is more towards New South Wales and probably maybe on the East Coast. But the one we found, the KidSafe one, is a fantastic document. The link is below as well. So it's called the KidSafe National Best Practice Guidelines for Child Restraint. So essentially, it is national best practice and legal guidelines around using baby seats and child restraints. And that is probably one of the most comprehensive guidelines out there. It's great, it covers everybody. And our organisation was also and it was basically formed together with a committee from people all over Australia, and we were on that committee as well. So very, very much trust those regulations and those guidelines. So let's break down the road rules very quickly, give you a quick 5-minute rundown of what the road rules are, and I'll show you the type of baby seats we've got to use for them. So in general, the road rules cover our kids and say our kids have to be in a child restraint until at least 7 years old. So they are age-based rules. Now, sometimes some people might think, oh, well, what if my child's a bit too tall or if they're a bit too short? Well, if they are too tall, easy. If you're too tall, you go on to the next restraint. So basically, once the law says once you're too tall or too heavy for the restraint that you are supposed to be in, then you move on to the next category of restraint. So if you're supposed to be in a baby capsule and you're too big for it, then you move on to the next one, which is a toddler seat. And let's get on to that. So the road rules are classified 0 to 7 years old, and then they're broken down into 3 categories. The babies, which are your 0 to 6 months. The next ones are the toddlers, are the 6 months to 4 years. And then you've got your older, smaller kids, which are from 4 to 7. So what do our babies need? Our babies will require a rearward-facing restraint, which is like this, and faces out the rear of the vehicle. A rearward-facing restraint comes in 2 different formats. You've either got one like that, which is a capsule, and I'll actually show you that one first and how that works. So a capsule, or an infant carrier, as they know as they're called in the industry, they are a system whereby you have these straps that you would take off. This strap would normally be connected to the vehicle. You would take that off, and that's normally connected to the vehicle. And then what you do is you grab a little handle, which I will grab right here. You grab your little handle and you take your infant off, and you carry them when you're down at the shops or at your house. You can take them in, and it's a really convenient way to carry the kids around. One other advantage of this is this has been designed purely for little babies, so we find that the angles and the comfort for the little babies is the best in these kind of capsules. However, capsules are generally only used for about 6 to 12 months, and they are quite expensive for a one-use seat. So in the market, they're often regarded as a bit of a luxury. However, having used one myself and having had a couple of kids, I spread the cost over the couple of kids, and I found that they were well worth the convenience that they were there. So the base is fitted into the vehicle, and you carry it, clicks in to your base, and away you go, and your child is facing out the back. And we're not talking about fitting today, so I understand these things are not fitted, but that's not what we're talking about. We're just trying to clarify for you guys the laws and regulations. So the next one we will cover is a rearward-facing child restraint. So a rearward-facing child restraint, when you look at it, it looks like a normal baby seat, like that. And I'll just straighten it up for you. But what you actually do with these ones is you recline them. So this one reclines like so, and you get it to look at the same kind of angle. And another thing I'll also mention before I talk about the angle is a lot of them also have a little rebound bar. So you pull your rebound bar up, and you fit them there like so. So this, again, and I'll turn my chair around so hopefully you can see it in the video recording. You can see that that's lying reclined. The baby is still facing out the back of the car. This would be my car seat here. So Bub's facing out the back, travelling around nicely. These ones, they don't come in and out as you use them. They stay there all the time. But the beauty about these ones is once you hit that line of 6 months, then you can turn them around. But on that point, before I go on about the 6 months and turning them around, 6 months is the minimum requirement for the law. We recommend, if you can, try and keep your kid in there until 12 months. It's much better for their safety, and we can talk about that on another video if you're interested. Rearward facing is by far the safest way that you can transport. Then, when we turn your child around, at around about 6 months to 12 months, as I said, try and keep them there till 12 months. Then we've got a forward facing scenario. So from 6 months until at least 4 years of age, we must be in a restraint that is forward facing. However, one key thing I want you to be very well aware of this is it must have an inbuilt harness, and it must have this little red button between the legs. So you've got this little red seatbelt. I don't know how well you can see it on the video there, but this little red button and this engagement button must be sitting there in between your child's legs until they are 4 years old, right? As a minimum. This is very, very important. We do get a bit of confusion around booster seats and harnesses and things like that. The way I have found over the years to get rid of all that confusion is, do you have a little red crutch buckle between your legs with a little red button? If that is, then you've got the right restraint until 4 years old. Nice and easy. Other than that, that's what you've got from 6 months until 4 years. As a minimum, as I said, we want to try and keep our kids rearward facing, and we don't want to turn them forward facing until 12 months old. But if you're in a hurry to get them out, they need to be sitting up on their own. So they need to be sitting up, holding their arms all around the place, and basically having no assistance required to sit up. And that could be 6 months, that could be earlier. Legally, it's not allowed to be turned around if it's earlier, but if it's later, you need to keep them rearward facing. Now, your next category is your older kids, which is kids which are from 4 to 7, and they would use a device something like this. So this is what we call a booster seat. Now the booster seat uses the child seatbelt that comes all the way around and comes through and feeds through the seatbelt guides, and away they go. Now the booster seat is required until at least 7 years old. Now what we've found, once again, most kids don't actually outgrow these things until roughly about 9 or 10. So whilst the law says 7, you should try and push them out till 8, 9, even 10 if you can. My daughter currently in 2017 is 9.5, and she still comfortably fits in a booster seat, and she still travels around in a booster seat. And she's very happy to do so as well. She understands that it's beneficial for her safety. So not a problem with using booster seats beyond the required law time. And that's the case with all child restraints, by the way. And in general, that's the point that we always like to make before we sign off, is that, as I said, 0 to 6 months, 6 months to 4 years, 4 to 7, those are the categories, but they are the minimum, absolute minimum requirements. My recommendation is 0 to 12 months rearward facing, 12 months to 5 years forward facing, 5 till 10 in the booster. That's what I recommend. That's what a lot of the industry professionals and a lot of the people that are in our game, the engineers, the testers, the scientists that see what actually is the impact, that's what they're doing as well. So take a tip and enjoy the rest of the day, and hopefully that information was helpful for you, Gina. And thank you very much for your questions. And anything else anyone's got, please fire away. We're always happy to answer those questions. Thanks very much once again.